Now here is the risk that Browns had to take with I love you, Cleveland. And I love you, Ohio. And a very pleasant welcome to this week's version of Bonus Time with Drennan here on the Big Play Sports Network. Hi, I'm Bruce Drennan along with Ryan Smith. We welcome you. We've got plenty to cover on today's show. Ryan, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well, Bruce. Another edition of Bonus Time. We got a lot to talk about. Detroit, good win for the Guardians. Browns, OTAs are kicking off. Bruce, this is the time where it seems like all sports are mixing together.
Well, yeah, we had nice wins in the first three games against Detroit, but the Dodgers are
Oh, what do you expect?
There's a reason why they're called the world champions, but we'll get to that in the next segment. By the way, we've mentioned this to you seldom, but you're going to hear a lot more of it in the weeks to come. We were very honored last year here at the Big Play Network to be the media outlet for the College Company Senior Tour event at Firestone South. And indeed, we are again going to be the media outlet. Matt Collig, you're going to be seeing a lot of him here on the network. He's going to be doing interviews. It's actually, the tournament itself will be June 18th to the 22nd. And again, you can join us at the Collig Infinity Zone, happy hour, drink specials, food trucks, cigar lounge, hands-on interactive fan experiences. On June 20th, entertainment will be provided by Folds of Honor, special military appreciation concert and performance by the County Artists Honor Guard and the shootouts. Visit collegechampionship.com for tickets. That's collegechampionship.com for tickets. Over the past couple of years, $2.6 million have been raised and given to 25 different Northeastern Ohio charities by Matt Collig and his foundation. Matt himself, great guy, University of Akron, former quarterback. You know him as the NASCAR team owner, championships, and minority owner for the Cleveland Guardians. So we're excited about going back to Firestone to be a big part of that, Ryan.
Yeah, you know, Matt Collig Companies in totality, such a philanthropic company. The amount that they give back to the community that has given them so much, you know, that's a staple of Matt Collig and everything that he's built. And to have something so special here at Firestone in Akron, we were there last year. It was just incredible. This year, the Infinity Zone's going to be there again. We're going to be there. Bruce, you and I will be there, of course, along with a bunch of other people at Big Play. And it's just an honor, really, to be able to provide some entertainment there and be a part of that legendary event Matt Collig puts together.
Yeah, we record our show here on Wednesdays, but we're going to be doing a special show from our location at the Infinity Zone on June the 19th. Am I correct on that, Ryan?
You would be.
Yeah, and is that going to be live?
Yes, it will be.
I think it is live, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So we'll tell you a lot more of this about this as we go along, but just wanted to point it out. Before we go any further, something really touched me this last week with the Guardians when they inserted Nick Enright, a pitcher who had been diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma back in December of 2022. 28 years old. He said, and I quote, biggest thing was not letting it dictate how I was going to live my life, and don't let it consume yourself. What a battle. What a story. And I'll tell you what, he looked great. 2 innings, 3 strikeouts against Detroit in the Sunday loss. But he was a 20th round pick, I think with Miami, Ryan. And that was back in 2019 in the amateur draft, came to us. What a heartwarming story. And the kid's got great minor league stats.
Yeah, you know, a kid from Richmond, Virginia. I believe he went to Virginia Tech, so not too far from Cleveland. But it's amazing to see somebody come in there and just make everything, you know, fulfill the moment, if you will. You mentioned 3 strikeouts, just 2 hits allowed. Very special moment for somebody that has overcome adversity, and nobody deserves it more.
Yeah, I hope we hear a lot more from him, and I think we will, because what I observed in that outing against Detroit, he looked pretty darn good. Unfortunately, we haven't looked so good the last 3 games, and that's next on Bonus Time with Drennan on Big Play. You don't want to miss it. I'm not happy.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Fairway Ford, the largest inventory of new Ford trucks, the lowest pricing, and same hometown level of service. Visit fairwayfordohio.com today.
Just getting started with this week's version of Bonus Time with Drennan here on Big Play. I wish the Guardians bats would get started. 9-5, the final Tuesday's game. Shohei Ohtani is extraordinary. He led off the Dodgers game on Sunday with a home run. And then here, Monday, in Cleveland, on the first pitch. So when he led off last night and he struck out against Bibee, it gave Cleveland fans some hope that he was human. But that would soon change. And reality would again set in. Guardian starting pitcher Tanner Bibee intentionally walked him in the second inning, and then in the fourth, you wouldn't call it a blast, but he got another home run. And that made the score 4-0. The home run meant that the Japanese superstar is the first hitter this year to reach the 20 home run plateau. He becomes the third player in Dodger history to hit 20-plus home runs through 55 games played to start a season. He joins Gil Hodges, who did it in 1951 when the Dodgers were still in New York and playing in Ebbets Field, and Cody Bellinger, now with the Yankees, who did it when he was a member of the Dodgers in 2020. This is the second time this season that Ohtani has homered in 3 straight games. He's now tied with Bellinger and Adrian Beltre, great ball player, for most home runs by a Dodger in a calendar month. He has 13 in the month of May. And by the way, Pedro Guerrero and Duke Snider are tied for the most in Dodger history with 15. His slugging percentage in the month of May is .776. That is unheard of. Meanwhile, LA starting pitcher Dustin May held the Guardians lineup in check for the most part, allowing 3 runs on 4 hits in 5 innings, and he had 9 strikeouts. The lone highlight for the Guards was a 3-run home run by Daniel Schneemann in the 4th, which narrowed the gap to 4-3 at the time and gave the home crowd some hope. But Michael Conforto and Max Muncy solidified the win with homers, and the Dodgers then coasted to their victory, and they are just rolling. Incidentally, Muncy and Conforto entered the game hitting a combined, get this, .212. But when you have a lineup consisting of Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, and Teoscar Hernandez, excuse me, chokes me up, you can get away with that kind of hitting in the bottom half of your lineup. Now, the Guardians don't have that luxury. Bo Naylor is hitting .188. Manzardo, .212. He's got, he's got homers and RBIs, but he's hitting .212. Wilson, .182. Jones, .175. Noel, .146. Santana, .243. The walk save him. Arias, .240. Rocchio, .165. And Austin Hedges, God bless him, .122. All the more reason that the Guardians starting pitchers have got to do a much better job of keeping the team in games. And in Monday's 7-2 loss, Gavin Williams labored in 4 2/3 innings, throwing 109 pitches in 4 2/3. He had he gave up 4 earned runs on 4 hits, 6 walks, 6. Walks drive me insane. They drive me insane. I'd rather see our pitchers get bombed instead of giving all those free passes. It reminds me of the late, great Earl Weaver, the great manager of the Baltimore Orioles, and when his pitchers gave up walks and he was forced to go out and relieve them, he didn't walk to the mound like every other major league manager does. He gave his best impression of sprinting out there to the hill with that roly-poly body of his to get that pitcher out of there as soon as possible. By the way, Monday night's first pitch home run Williams served up to Ohtani. That's the third time this year he's rendered a first pitch home run to start the game. Fifth time Cleveland starters have done so this year. Now, you'd think our guys would know that hitters know it's probably going to be a fastball and probably the best pitch they're going to get against that pitcher in the whole game. Now, I like Williams' potential. Don't get me wrong. I think he's going to be really good someday. And I obviously like Bybee and even Logan Allen. But the bottom line is we can't get Shane Bieber back here quick enough. Or we're going to get up one morning and see that we're double digits behind Detroit in the American League Central. After taking the first 3 games in the 4-game series in the Motor City, it looked like we were beginning a run at them. But after last night's loss to L.A. and the Tigers winning 3 in a row, including the last game of the series against us, we're abruptly 6 games behind them and have dropped into 3rd place behind Minnesota. Schedule doesn't get any easier for the Guardians. After the weekend series, after this series and after the weekend series against the LA Angels coming up, we travel to New York to play 3 with the first place Yankees. Then a homestand versus Houston and Terry Francona's Cincinnati Reds, who didn't treat us kindly down there in the Queen City. Following that homestand, Cleveland must travel to the Pacific Northwest for 3 with the first-place Seattle Mariners of the American League West. And from there on to San Francisco to play the surprisingly contending San Francisco Giants. Be careful, because by then, we could be out of it. By the way, speaking of Bieber, he is set to take another step in his rehab from Tommy John surgery. He's slated to start this coming Saturday in the rookie-level Arizona Complex League. It will mark his first game since the surgery, and it's hopeful after several minor league rehab starts that Bieber can rejoin the Guardians sometime in the upcoming month of June. Meanwhile, the versatile David Fry is close to coming back. Ryan?
Yeah, you know, Bruce, your starting pitcher is struggling to consistently go over 6 innings. You're taxing the bullpen. You're not hitting the ball if you're not named Jose Ramirez and Steven Kwan. That's not a great formula to win. You mentioned your run differential is actually minus 20. It's not indicative of your record. The expected win total, you'd actually be below 500. And in fact, I think your runs scored and runs allowed are both, you're playing better than expected. So right now, I don't want to say you're getting lucky, but you are getting a bit lucky if you're one of those statistical guys. And you mentioned, Bruce, the road gets no easier. You play the Giants, you play the Mariners, right? You play the Angels coming up next, but they're no sleeper team. Like you struggled with them earlier in the season.
Excuse me, Ryan. They'll have Trout back. They're getting Trout back maybe by this weekend series.
And yeah, it'd be nice to, lay our laurels on, well, we got Shane Bieber coming back, and that's exciting, and I expect him to be great, but you can't also expect one pitcher to come and turn the starting staff around. It's not like he could pitch every day.
And Cicconi's hurt.
Gavin
he was supposed to start in today's games, and as we are recording, they haven't yet thrown out the first pitch for the series finale against the Dodgers, but he was slated to go, and he's been scratched.
And it's the walks, Bruce, as you mentioned. The free bases are driving you crazy. I can imagine they're keeping Carl Willis up at night. Tanner Bybee, it's funny. It seems as though there's something in the air this season. first batter home runs. Gavin, we saw it with Shohei, and we've seen it with Tanner Bybee multiple times this season. I'm not sure what's going on, but it feels like for Gavin, something's not right in the mentals. And for Tanner Bybee, I hate to say it, Bruce, but unfortunately, I'm yet to see a full campaign where he strings it together. One day he looks like a pseudo-ace. The other, he looks like a middling third pitcher.
I know. I think they're going to both be really good major league pitchers, but again, they're still going through growing pains. It's a very young ball club, and they're very young as far as pitching status is concerned. But heck, we gotta hit. Those batting averages are killing us. And the toughest hit to get, but it's the most important hit to get, is the 2-out clutch base hit with ducks on the pond. That's the toughest hit in baseball. Championship teams get more of those than non-championship teams. It's really quite simple. And we've got to get to that point, Ryan. So a lot of work to be done for the Guardians, that's for sure. All right, when we come back, we'll take a look at the rest of the major leagues. Bonus time with Drennan. Big play. I love you, Menor Nissan. Hi, Bruce Drennan here from my good friends at Menor Nissan. Ray Sminchak, the whole staff. As you know, I've been doing a lot of our shows down in Florida, just returned. Great to be back on the home confines of our beautiful studios here at Burke Lakefront Airport for Big Play. But I got to tell you, I drove my Nissan Rogue from Menor Nissan down to Florida, had the rack up on top with extra luggage. It was absolutely the most splendid, beautiful ride. Just as smooth as could be. My wife also drives a Rogue. We rotated driving down there and back, but I just can't recommend it any more so to you. Get on out there, test drive a Rogue or a Murano or any of the other great products that they have out there at Menor Nissan. Don't forget, they're now in partnership with Infinity of Akron and Infinity of Beechwood. Check those great vehicles out as well. Service department is absolutely fantastic. Went back to the dealership to get maintenance after that long drive down there and back. And give them a call. Set up an appointment. Of course, check out their website at MenorNissan.com. That's MenorNissan.com. I love you, Menor Nissan. All right, as we resume bonus time with Drennan here on Big Play, taking a look at the rest of the major leagues. We got this upcoming series with the Yankees, as I mentioned in the previous segment. New York is 34-20 as of this recording. They've won 4 in a row, 8 of their last 10. Aaron Judge is hitting .395. We've got 3 or 4 players combined that don't have that high of a batting average. He's got 18 home runs, right behind Ohtani for the major league lead. He's got 47 RBIs. He could approach 150 or exceed that. In this day and age, that is just extraordinary. He's got 14 doubles, 2 triples, and he's walked 36 times. It's almost like with Barry Bonds, you're better off walking with guys on base, Ryan, than to pitch to them. Paul Goldschmidt's hitting .343 for the Yanks. And former Atlanta Brave lefty Max Fried, Cole went down, one of the best pitchers in baseball. He went down for the Yankees. He's done for the year. Former Brave Max Fried, who they just acquired in the offseason, free agent, is 7-0 with a 1.28 ERA. And he's not a flamethrower. He's finesse. He's got a fantastic curveball. New York leads second place Tampa Bay by 7 games. Now, we mentioned in the last segment about the Guardians falling too far behind Detroit. The saving grace, Ryan, is that the rest of the American League, nothing really to brag about except for New York. I'm going to get to the American League West here. It's very tight. Seattle's 30-23, and they've merely got a 1.5 lead on the Houston Astros, who we've got a series coming up against. But the good news is for Cleveland that You know, you could have Minnesota, ourselves, and Kansas City fighting for a wild card, even if Detroit winds up running away with our division.
Yeah, you mentioned right now 29 and 25. That would give you the second wild card spot as we record this. Minnesota, of course, holds the one. And Houston right now would be the third wild card, but right on their heels is Kansas City. So for all the talk of the AL Central 2 years ago, man, has that shifted on its head. AL Central, one of the best divisions in baseball, Bruce. You love to see it.
Yeah, no question about it. Let's go to the National League, where Philadelphia in the East is right now the hottest team in baseball. They now own the best record in the major leagues at 35-19. Now, the Mets are right behind them, a game and a half back. But have you checked out Soto's stats, Ryan?
Have I?
Terrible. You know, I can't believe the intense competitor that he is. A prevalent feeling by fans that once these guys get their lifetime franchise contract that they become complacent. I can't believe that with Soto, but whatever the reason, man, he's not earning that cash in New York, and the media hasn't been too kind to him. Well, the Mets are only a game and a half behind Philadelphia, but Philadelphia has been kind of an underachieving team that's been great the last few years. I see Harper just got nailed, too, with it. Did you see that, Ryan?
I did see. I saw it live.
Yeah. And how long's he out, have they said?
I haven't seen anything yet on that, Bruce.
Schwarber has got his normal home runs and RBIs. They're a great ball club, but they've underachieved. I'm sure the Philadelphia fans would agree because they've been so great. One of the best starting pitchers in baseball is Wheeler. Nola's hurt right now, but the other guys in the rotation are picking it up, Suarez, etc. But they're really hot right now. All right, the National League Central, the Cubs, a team that I predicted would win that division, lead with a 34-21 record, and they've won 3 in a row, and they've won 8 of their last 10 games. But the surprise of that division, in my opinion, is the St. Louis Cardinals. The Cardinals are only 3 games back of the Cubs at 31-24, and Terry Francona's Cincinnati Reds are an even 500 club right now at 28-28. They're 6.5 games back. The National League West, obviously, the Dodgers enjoy the lead. 34-21 is a record for the Dodgers. However, that's only a 2-game lead on San Diego. And a 3-game lead ahead of San Francisco, as I mentioned. They're a surprising contender this year. As great as the world champions are, they're being challenged in that division. And one might say that actually is the toughest division in baseball because Arizona's a pretty good ball club too, Ryan. And I would say the American League Central is second best.
Yeah, talking about the Cubs, man, are they fun to watch? And I hate to say that as a Cleveland Guardians fan, obviously the history of 2016, but Pete Crow Armstrong has come out of the woodwork, man. He's playing like an MVP candidate, 3.1 WAR already throughout the season. By the way, he steals bases and draws walks. Seiya Suzuki, by the way, 50 RBIs, not really a household name, Bruce, leads the majors in RBIs. Oh, yeah, and by the way, they got a guy named Kyle Tucker. Wait till he continues to keep it going.
And isn't Happ still hurt? Or is he back with him?
It looks like he's still hurt. Only 46 games played, so he's definitely hurt.
See? The question with them will be the pitching, especially in Wrigley Field. I know. I grew up on that ballpark. That wind blowing out from Lake Michigan and its home run derby. I can't tell you how many times as a kid I would go to Wrigley Field and watch the Cubs lose 12-8 when the Braves were still in Milwaukee and Hank Aaron would hit 2 home runs and Ernie Banks would hit 2. The problem is Joe Adcock, Billy Bruton, Eddie Matthews, they would all hit 1 for Milwaukee at the time, before they moved to Atlanta. But, yeah, I saw so many games. Saw Stan the Man Musial when he was with the St. Louis Cardinals. Roberto Clemente with Pittsburgh. Oh, my. Say Hey Kid Willie Mays with the Giants. Orlando Cepeda. Willie McCovey. Phillies with Richie Ashburn. And Richie Allen, as Harry Carey used to call him. NBA, we will transition to the NBA playoffs in just a minute. Bonus time with Drennan. Big play.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Smart Choice Windows. Energy-efficient products at an affordable price. Visit smartchoicewindows.com today.
Hey, Cavs fans. Does it make you feel any better that Indiana's on the verge of eliminating New York and representing the Eastern Conference for the NBA championship? I know, not really. But they are impressive. This would be only the second time that franchise has ever done that. They're on the verge after last night's 130-121 victory as they lead the series 3-1. Halliburton, 32 points, 15 assists, and 12 rebounds. That is historic, by the way. He's the first player since they started keeping statistics of assists. First player since 77-78 to do that. The only others were Jokic and Oscar Robertson. Those are the only others to ever do that. Amazing. Siakam had 30 points. And, boy, they are impressive. As I said when they played us, they out-physicaled us. They outshot us, and we were the best shooting team in the NBA. That was very disturbing. And they were considerably faster than our team. Your take?
I mean, Tyrese Halliburton, it's hard to come up with any other adjective for him this postseason than just amazing. Maybe clutch as well, because not only is he hitting shots, he's hitting shots when they count the most. He's by far been the best player throughout this postseason. Shai is getting up the points, but Tyrese is just such a pure facilitator as well. On both, he can go to the rim, he can facilitate, and he can play a little bit defense. He's been so impressive. And you talked about Pascal Siakam, for the two. Remember, Pascal Siakam was a critical part on the championship team in Toronto. He's nothing to sleep on. Nembhard has been incredible. Naismith has been producing, and you have Miles Turner, a 5 that can stretch the floor, which is exactly what the Cavs been missing. And you go back to your point, Bruce, does it make you feel a little bit better? It doesn't, but at the same time, you got to think a little bit. Well, you did run into the hottest team, and it wasn't like it was a fluke. This is clearly an identity of the Pacers. So maybe it takes a little bit of solace in that, Bruce. But I can't say enough how good Tyrese Halliburton was. And, we're quick to look for the next face of the league. And a lot of the talk is Anthony Edwards. And he's phenomenal as well in his own right, and one of the most athletic players I've ever seen. But when you're talking about guys, the faces of the NBA, it's the guys that show up in the postseason, the guys that win championships. Yes. And if Tyrese Halliburton can get it done this year with the squad he has now, Bruce, that's one of the most impressive feats I've seen in the last half decade.
Looks like they're going to play Oklahoma City. I think that's a foregone conclusion. Oak City winning 128-126 to take a commanding 3-1 lead after getting thrashed the game before, which was kind of surprising. But they were the best team during the regular season, even though we had the best record for quite a while. But they overtook us, and we split with them this year. But tonight, Oak City is an 8.5-point favorite to wrap things up against Minnesota. So let's just for a moment assume it's going to be Oak City against Indiana. What do you think, Ryan?
I'll say this. I hope it goes 7, and I hope it's entertaining, and I think it really does have the chance to be. It's hard to count out the Pacers because are they going to do this for another series against a great defensive team, great all-around team, like you said, the best team in the regular season against the Thunder? I want to say no, but hell, they've done it against the Cavs. They've done it against the Knicks.
Yes.
Who am I to say that they can't do it against the Thunder, although I will go with the proof the Thunder are the deeper team. They have the MVP in Shai. I'll give it the Thunder. They win in 7 games.
Cavs have got to do something. They got a salary cap problem, do they not?
They do. The second apron, which is the tough part, because it's not easy. You can't just move Jared Allen's contract for what you're paying him. I think it's $20 million. Is a team really going to take that? No, you're paying Evan Mobley all this money, which, by the way, he got the Defense Player of the Year, which means you're going to have to pay him more money. And once you're over the luxury tax, I believe it's every dollar that you spend. Well, it's actually every $3 that you have to spend because you're over that cap. And Dan Gilbert doesn't want to shy away from his deep pockets, but there are some constraints that are impossible to get around.
And, speaking of Defensive Player of the Year, the All-NBA teams were announced. Diego Alexander, Jokic, Giannis, Jason Tatum, and Donovan Mitchell made first team.
I thought rightfully so, and it was good to see Evan Mobley obviously win Defense Player of the Year. I believe he was second team All-NBA. And it's crazy to think LeBron at 40 years old is
Along
still
with Anthony Edwards, who
second team NBA.
Ryan mentioned earlier, Curry of Golden State, LeBron James, and Brunson of the New York Knicks. And then third team, Halliburton, Cade Cunningham, James Harden, Williams, Anthony Towns of the Knicks. So, any omissions you can think of?
Oh, geez. I don't know. I only think about it for the Cavs, and they clearly had no snubs this year. So I think they got it right.
All right, when we come back, we will switch gears and talk about the Browns, the OTAs, and the quarterback battle. That's next on Bonus Time with Drennan here on the Big Play Sports Network.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Pure AV, luxury home automation. Experience your dream smart home by visiting pureavcorp.com.
Well, the National Football League has started their OTAs, and the voluntary May 27th to June 19th, and mandatory starts on June 10th. Before we get into the quarterback conversation with our Cleveland Browns, how about this terrible news about Owusu Koromoa out for the season with a knee injury, Ryan?
It's absolutely devastating, Bruce. He was the heart of the middle of that defense. He was making tackles left and right, a guy that can cover and get downhill. The amount of plays that he made and just the heart and soul. And I've had the opportunity, he was on the Crib Show before, just such a down-to-earth guy. And to suffer an injury like that, it's just absolutely devastating. You never want to see anything with the neck or above. And, it kind of makes more sense why they took Carson Schlesinger, the linebacker out of UCLA, with their second pick, because they knew they were going to need to replace a guy that could be all over the field. And that's exactly what they envisioned Schlesinger can do for them. So an absolute brutal blow to start the offseason, or really to start the the programming to get to the next season. Just terrible news, and hearts out to Jock and his family.
Well, despite my criticism of the draft by the Browns, there were 4 players they took that I like a lot. The linebacker from UCLA, both running backs from Tennessee and obviously Ohio State, and the tight end from Bowling Green I like too.
Yeah, Harold Fannin, a bit undersized for the tight end position.
He can get yardage after the catch.
Yeah, but exactly. Yard after the catch guy, he can stretch the seams. He's probably never going to be an elite blocker, but that's what you got David Njoku for, and you can go back to that West Coast 2 tight end sets. He can fit in real nice here in Cleveland.
By the way, Sanders has negated the rumor that was flying around that he bought this, what was it, a Mercedes or something?
It was a $500,000. It was either a Mercedes or a Rolls Royce, one of those two.
How does this stuff get out there? It's just...
You'd be surprised, Bruce, the amount of people that just follow athletes around. They post everything about them. Taylor Swift fans, they check in what she has for lunch every day. So if that tells you anything about parasocial relationships.
She didn't show up for the awards, I guess, the other night. All these young girls that idolize her were so disappointed. But we're not talking about the Kansas City Chiefs today. So what's going to happen with this quarterback situation? Now, obviously, Watson's there, but he's not going to be a factor. They're going to shelf him for the year. Don't you agree, Ryan?
Yeah, absolutely. But if you talk to some people, they'll leave the door open a little bit because he's been out of his boot, he's been throwing. But I think it's all just white noise, Bruce. I think his career in Cleveland.
What are they going to do? Even if you entertain the possibility that he could return, then what are you going to do with all these guys?
Listen, the owner called it a swing and miss. He finally came out and admitted a mistake. He's on his second Achilles tear. It's over, Bruce.
So now where do we go?
Oh, that's the great part, Bruce. It's time to figure out who's going to win that quarterback battle for week 1. The way it sounds like the Browns are going to be organizing it is they're going to have 2 concurrent passing camps, I guess, if you will. One with Kenny Pickett and Dylan Gabriel, and another with Shedeur Sanders and Joe Flacco. Right now, according to reports, it seems like Kenny Pickett has the inside edge. I believe he'll be taking the first team reps. And right now, at this point, and anything can happen, anything can change. It does seem like it's Kenny Pickett's starting role to lose. Now, that's a very easy role to lose as Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel, if they have anything to say about it.
So what do you bring in Flacco just for camp to tutor these young guys, and then you cut ties with him? I don't know how to figure that out. Because since they used a 3rd-round pick on Gabriel, and then they took Sanders, who was projected at one time to go number 2 in the draft. Think of that.
Well,
number 2 in the draft, and the Browns took him in the 5th round. So since they did this, how do they get rid of these guys? I mean, I don't know how to. I can't comprehend their mentality. I just can't.
There could always be a team that comes calling looking for a Joe Flacco services, and the Saints are at the top of that list with the news that Derek Carr retired. But you got to remember, the first quarterback that they acquired was Kenny Pickett. They traded DTR, and I believe it was a 6th for Kenny Pickett or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then he signed Joe Flacco later, and that was also before you knew you were going to be drafting 2 quarterbacks. I don't imagine the Browns' plan was to draft 2 quarterbacks. It was to get their guy Dylan Gabriel, which they showed you by drafting him in the 3rd round. And Shedeur fell to the 5th, and whether it was Andrew Berry who identified the value there, it was on too hard to pass, or whether it came from above, and it was a Jimmy Haslam pick, I doubt we'll ever really get the real answer to that. But I got to imagine it because they didn't envision themselves drafting 2 quarterbacks.
And what's going to happen with the Kenny Rogers, with Aaron Rodgers saga in Pittsburgh? And now I see that they're entertaining Kirk Cousins. What's going to happen there? What is Rodgers doing? I mean, he's still contemplating whether he's going to retire or play. I guess Bradshaw was pretty harsh on him.
I mean, at first it seemed like he was just holding out to see if the Minnesota Vikings were willing to take a 1-year deal on him. It seems like they went the route. They want to see what they have in a young J.J. McCarthy fully healed, and I would do the same thing if I were them. I think that's a good decision.
Yes,
and then
I
now
agree.
the Steelers, it's looking like their starting quarterback is possibly going to be Mason Rudolph a second time around. I don't know what Aaron Rodgers is doing. He's like the last domino to fall. Kirk Cousins has been linked to about 16 different teams this offseason, it seems like. But if I had to guess right now without any empirical evidence, Mason Rudolph is probably going to start week 1, and maybe along the lines of season we see Will Howard get a shot.
Maybe the Browns are still going to get Kirk Cousins the way they operate.
You never know.
I'm just kidding. I do want to acknowledge that the NCAA college football playoff format has been changed for the better. The seeding will be based on the final rankings of the committee rather than conference championships like they did it last year in their initial season, which was a joke. Arizona State and Boise State getting byes. Come on, give me a break. Now, Alabama felt snubbed last year because I think the final rankings had them number 11th in the country, and they didn't make it, obviously. But certainly, this is a step in the right direction. But there's a big controversy going on now being raised by both the ACC and the Big 12, aimed at the Big 10 and the SEC, the two super conferences, because they're talking about maybe the year after this coming season going to a 16-team format, Ryan.
Yeah, you mentioned this is the first rule provision that they're making for the format. It certainly won't be the last, and it won't be one of the few. 16 teams, it seems like it's going to be inevitable. Who knows, Bruce? Maybe we'll be looking at a 64-team March Madness for the NCAA football. But I agree with you, Bruce. I think it was a much
season than play a couple of games.
I've been saying, Bruce, it seems like it's easier to fix America and its problems than it is to fix college football.
Yeah, now, there's pros and cons to this playoff format. I mean, the playoffs were very entertaining, with the exception of the seeding. Again, reiterating, Boise State and Arizona State had no business getting byes. But the other bowl games were nothing. How much interest did you have in the other bowl games? Really? Not that should matter, but it does matter during the holiday season. Does it not, Ryan?
I mean, it's all about money. It's just crazy to think about. You guys mentioned you got Boise State and Arizona State who get the automatic bye. And then when you really look at it, the two last teams standing, Ohio State and Notre Dame, well, previous years, they wouldn't have been there. They wouldn't have the opportunity to go to the final dance. Ohio State lost to unranked rival in Michigan. You got to remember, Notre Dame lost earlier in the year to Northern Illinois. At
home.
You take that a couple years back, no shot. That's the end of your season. And here they are, one of the last two teams in the championship.
Right. Some of the games were very entertaining, though. I mean, Penn State. Who would have thought that Penn State would be as impressive as they were in the tournament? They were.
And I'll say this, Bruce. The Texas-Arizona State game was one of the most entertaining games of that whole postseason.
It was. But, again.
Point well taken.
Yeah, but and Tennessee was a good team, too, just because Ohio State annihilated them. They were a good team during the regular season in the SEC. And Georgia, of course, we know about. But, all right, so anyway, they got it right as far as seeding these teams based on final rankings by the committee. Ask Bruce segment next. Bonus time with Drennan Big Play.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Infinity. Luxury experiences for those who dare to be different. Visit infinityofbeechwood.com today.
I look forward to the Ask Bruce segment. Take it away, Ryan.
All righty, we'll start here. Hey, Bruce, which Guardian player or players do you figure will be affected by David Fry's return to the lineup in the near future?
Well, again, as I've said all along, I mean, you've got the Brennans, the Noels, the Joneses of the team that have just got to go. Come on. I went through the batting averages in our earlier segment today. For goodness sakes, how can you justify these kinds of batting averages on our team? I mean, it's absolutely pathetic to look at some of these guys that this is the major leagues. It's the major leagues. And as I mentioned, you've got to get clutch hits. And you can only justify low batting averages like we have from so many guys if you've got the Otanis, Freemans, Mookie Betts, Teoscar Hernandez up top of the lineup. Yeah, we got Quan. Yeah, we got Jose. But come on.
Alrighty, next up. Hey, Bruce, who do you think will make their Cleveland Guardians debut first? This is a good one. Chase DeLauder or CJ Kayfus?
Boy, that Kayfus is tearing it up, isn't he? How healthy is DeLauder? What do they say?
I haven't seen an update on him in a little bit.
I
Bruce.
haven't either, and he's a top prospect, but this Kayfus came out of nowhere. Not with the scouts or, Antonetti and Chernoff, but boy, he's tearing it up. And I've talked to people that have seen him in games, and they say he's the real deal. So the future looks bright. And then with Manzardo. Now, Manzardo's got to raise that batting average. 212 will not be accepted, but the homers and the RBIs are there. I like the way he plays the game. He plays hard. But Noel, we were expecting the same kind of power production, and it just hasn't been there.
Alrighty, hey, Bruce, with the injury to Ben Lively and Joey Cantillo getting stretched out, will we see Parker Messick soon?
I think you're possibly going to see him and others before all is said and done. Remember, Bieber, as you astutely mentioned, Ryan, when he comes back, how much can we expect from him? I mean, he's been a year off. It's going to take him several minor league rehabs. Then he's going to have to get acclimated to the major leagues again, facing major league hitters. So it's not the come all. I think they'll be watching Bieber on a very strict pitch count. And indeed, you may see other minor leaguers coming up as well.
Hey, Bruce, is Daniel Schneemann for real? And do you think that he should be getting more at-bats?
Yeah, I do. I like the way he plays the game. I mentioned it on last week's show. And he's so versatile defensively, too, which managers absolutely love because they can insert injuries, can insert him here, there, rest a player. Yeah, I love the way he plays the game. Well, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this week's version of Bonus Time with Drennan here on the Big Play Sports Network. I'm Bruce Drennan. On behalf of Ryan Smith, hope you enjoyed the show. We'll see you next week. Until then, as always, and most importantly, you remember, I love you, Ohio. And I love you, Cleveland.